Welcome to the Leverage Show. Today, we're going to cover the 4 biggest mistakes that people make when trying to outsource, when trying to get talent outside of hiring full-time or part-time employees, but being able to actually go and get contract type labor and people to do specific jobs for specific amounts of time. Now, it's a really hot topic because the fact of the matter is, if you do this right, you can really build your business very rapidly in a really simple and scalable way. However, if you make mistakes, then it can actually be a disaster. So the funny thing is, if you talk to 100 entrepreneurs that have all tried outsourcing before, you're going to get completely different stories and completely different experiences based on their own personal experience with it. So some people are going to tell you, oh, I swear by it, it's the most important thing, help me grow my business, everything else. And then somebody else is going to tell you it's a total disaster, you can't get qualified people, you spend a lot of money and you don't get what you pay for. So I want to share with you the 4 biggest pitfalls or the 4 biggest mistakes that I see people make in trying to hire outsourced talent. The first, and this is a big one and it seems pretty obvious, but unfortunately it's very common, is if you don't have clear job functions or expectations. So sort of the idea is, I'm going to hire this person that has a skill in whatever it is. Say you need a graphic designer, you find somebody that has Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, so you hire them and you say, okay, great, here's a bunch of graphic work that I need done, go to it, and I'm all set. That's the absolute wrong approach, because the fact of the matter is, you're not really giving the person any clear idea of exactly what you're expecting. You're not giving them any examples, you're not giving them any templates, you're not giving them anything to go on. So it's going to be really difficult to sort of get something. You have your own idea of the way things should look, the way things should work, and it's your company, it's your business. So for you, you're very invested in it. But this is somebody that you're paying basically by the hour or by the job. They're invested in getting the work done so they can get paid. Doesn't mean they don't care, but they're going to do whatever they think is right. And if you don't give them clear expectations, you may not get what you want. But it actually goes even beyond that, because it's not just from the work quality. A lot of times the problem comes from the actual employer's perspective, in the sense that if you don't know exactly what you need them to do, it's really difficult to even know how to hire the right kind of person. Do you need somebody just a couple of hours a day? Do you need somebody maybe just a couple hours a week? Or do you need to just pay somebody by the job and have them do job 1 and then job 2? If you don't have a clear idea of the various tasks, projects, and work that they're going to be doing, it's impossible to know what kind of job you're actually trying to hire out. If you have that clearly laid out, and you know what your expectations are, and you know what the job description is going to be down to the task level of detail, now you can post a job description that makes more sense and has more detail, so you're more likely to get the right kind of person, but also you can manage expectations to that. Because if somebody then takes the job and doesn't provide you with what you had specified you want, you have the track record to say, this is what I want. If it's all up here and it's not written down, it's impossible for somebody else to intuit what it is that you really wanted. And so that is one of the major issues. Now, once you've got that stuff laid out and you really have a clear job description, a clear idea of how many hours that you need or how often you're going to need this or whatever else, the next step is, or the next problem is that employers don't screen candidates well enough. So there's sort of this idea that, well, geez, if it's outsourcing, I mean, what's really the big deal, right? Because, I can just hire and fire as I need. It's not like I'm hiring a full-time employee, so I don't need to do all the legwork in order to screen somebody and make sure they're qualified, because if they're not, so what? I just get rid of them. It's absolutely the wrong approach, because even though you're only hiring them for a short term, first of all, if they're good, you would hope that you could continue to use them. But worse, if you hire somebody who's bad, Now they need to be replaced. You have, the money you wasted on them, the time you wasted on them. Then you got to go backfill it anyway. You want to spend time up front screening candidates, not quite as much as you would a full-time employee, but pretty close. You want to make sure that you check their qualifications. What are their skills and experience? A lot of times people will apply for jobs for you that they're not even really qualified for. Or worse, they're really overqualified for, so they're not really going to be that interested. As soon as they find something better, they're gone. The other thing is you definitely want to check their feedback. Find out what other employers and other people that have used them feel about them. You want to check their responsiveness. Start asking them questions and see, will they respond to you and will they give you good answers? Because when they're trying to get the job you're offering, they're not going to, you have no chance of them being responsive after you've awarded it to them. Then they've got what they want, so now they're going to disappear or they're going to kind of do their own thing. And so those are all things you want to screen for up front. And the biggie is to ask them for samples of their work. So depending on what you're going to be working on, if it's something where they can't provide samples, then so be it. You could always ask for references. But if it's something where, like graphic design or video production, it's very easy to ask them for samples of their work, and then you can see visually right away, hey, does this meet the expectations of the quality of work that I'm looking for? If it does, great. If it doesn't, don't hire them. The third big issue that I see is that once you bring somebody on board, there's a tendency to not invest enough in training and helping them succeed. Look, just because you're hiring somebody to do, graphic design for you does not mean that once they come on board, they don't need any guidance. If I hire a marketing manager for my company, they might be an expert in marketing. They still are going to need some idea. They need to know about my processes, how my company works, the different things that I'm looking for, what our objectives are, what our vision is, all of those other things. I can't just say, okay, well, you've started, good, go market. It doesn't work that way. So even though you're hiring somebody for a specific skill and they're skilled in that way, it's important that you're available and responsive, particularly in the first several days to week of their job, because that's when they're going to have the most questions. Encourage them to ask questions. Encourage them to engage you. And be responsive. Help them to be successful. Let them feel like they're a part of your company and a part of what you're doing. Make them feel like they're not just a hired hand to help with a particular job. Because if they feel invested, they're going to be much more likely to invest back in you and make sure that they do a good job as opposed to just looking for the paycheck. And so invest in them a little bit and spend some time making sure that they're aware of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, how their work fits into the greater whole of what you're doing. And obviously the specifics of what they need to do. Any systems they need access to, any sort of other people that they need to interact with. You want to make sure you make those introductions, make them feel welcome and like an important part of the team. And it goes a long way in terms of getting the kind of performance that you're looking for. And then the fourth issue that I see is if you do everything else, that you're still going to find some people that you hire where it's just not a good fit. Now, the problem is a lot of people do not end contracts or replace workers that aren't getting the job done quickly enough. If you have, any sort of sympathy or empathy and you're that kind of person, you may feel like, geez, I don't want to fire somebody. I don't want to let him go. But ultimately it's a mistake and it hurts both of you. What I typically do, and a good way to approach this, is when you hire somebody, you initially take responsibility for making them be successful. So you put the impetus on you to give them the training and to give them the knowledge and the skills and the access that they need to start doing what they're doing. After that, it's up to them to start doing the job. And what I do is have them check in relatively often in the beginning. If I have a big project, I give them one piece of it. Do this and then get back to me. If they show it to me and I'm not happy with the results or how long it took them, and you have to bear in mind there's going to be a learning curve. So something that might take you 2 hours to do, it might take them 4 or 5 the first time. That's fine, as long as they're showing growth. As long as the next time they do it, it takes 3. And then the next time 2.5, and they're getting closer, that's fine. Can't expect them to do everything at the speed or pace that you would or an experienced veteran would, because they're new to your environment. But once you've gotten some production, if you're not happy with it, my rule of thumb is go back to them and give them an opportunity to fix it. Try to show them an example of what your real expectations are and how what they did doesn't quite match up. And I give them a second chance. If after that second piece they come back and the work isn't up to snuff, or they're still taking a ridiculously long amount of time, I just tell them, you know what, listen, I appreciate all the work you did. I'm going to pay you for the time that you've done, obviously, but it just flat out isn't working out. And then I just let them go. They're going to be better off because they can find something more suited for them. And you're going to be better off because you're not going to spend countless hours and wasted dollars working with somebody who isn't going to be able to get the job done. It's better to go repost the job and go hire somebody else and learn from your mistakes. If the error or the mistake or the shortcoming they had was something that you can think about and say, you know what, maybe I made the mistake. Maybe I didn't ask for this particular skill or this particular ability. Now add that into your job description so you get better and better at hiring and you get better and better at the whole process. Like any other skill, outsourcing is absolutely a skill. And the more you do it, the better you get. But those are 4 big pitfalls that I see people make over and over again that cost them unnecessary heartache, unnecessary headaches, loss of money, and loss of time. So if you start by fixing those 4 things, you're going to be that much closer to being really successful with outsourcing. And it can be a major asset to your company and your growth. As always, if you have any questions or comments, share them with me at levrigeshow.com or tweet them at #LevrigeShow. And until next time, make it happen.